Hello, dear viewer, and thank you for joining me on day 6 of reading the Bible together. Today we are reading Genesis chapter 12, 13, and 14 from the Old Testament, as well as Matthew chapter 5, verse 21 to 42 from the New Testament. Let's start. Genesis chapter 12. God's call to Abraham. The Lord said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your relatives, and your father's home, and go to a land that I am going to show you. I will give you many descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse those who curse you. And through you I will bless all the nations." When Abraham was 75 years old, he started out from Haran, as the Lord had told him to do, and Lot went with him. Abraham took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the wealth and all the slaves they had acquired in Haran, and they started out for the land of Canaan. When they arrived in Canaan, Abraham traveled through the land until he came to the sacred tree of Moreh, the holy place at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were still living in the land. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, "This is the country that I am going to give to your descendants." Then Abraham built an altar there to the Lord, who had appeared to him. After that, he moved on south to the hill country, east of the city of Bethel, and set up his camp between Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There also he built an altar and worshipped the Lord. Then he moved on from place to place, going toward the southern part of Canaan. Abraham in Egypt. But there was a famine in Canaan, and it was so bad that Abraham went farther south to Egypt to live there for a while. When he was about to cross the border into Egypt, he said to his wife Sarah, "You are a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will assume that you are my wife, and so they will kill me and let you live. Tell them that you are my sister. Then, because of you, they will let me live and treat me well." When he crossed the border into Egypt, the Egyptians did see that his wife was beautiful. Some of the court officials saw her and told the king how beautiful she was, so she was taken to his palace. Because of her, the king treated Abraham well, and gave him flocks of sheep and goats, cattle, donkeys, slaves, and camels. But because the king had taken Sarah, the Lord sent terrible diseases on him and on the people of his palace. Then the king sent for Abraham and asked him, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say that she was your sister, and let me take her as my wife? Here is your wife, take her and get out." The king gave orders to his men, so they took Abraham and put him out of the country, together with his wife and everything he owned. Genesis chapter 13. Abraham and Lot separate. Abraham went north out of Egypt to the southern part of Canaan with his wife and everything he owned, and Lot went with him. Abraham was a very rich man, with sheep, goats, and cattle, as well as silver and gold. Then he left there and moved from place to place, going towards Bethel. He reached the place between Bethel and Ai, where he had camped before and had built an altar. There he worshipped the Lord. Lot also had sheep, goats, and cattle, as well as his own family and servants, and so there was not enough pasture land for the two of them to stay together, because they had too many animals. So quarrels broke out between the men who took care of Abraham's animals and those who took care of Lot's animals. At that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites were still living in the land. Then Abraham said to Lot, "We are relatives, and your men and my men shouldn't be quarreling. So let's separate. Choose any part of the land you want. You go one way, and I'll go the other." Lot looked around and saw that the whole Jordan Valley, all the way to Zoar, had plenty of water, like the garden of the Lord, or like the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord had destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the whole Jordan Valley for himself and moved away towards the east. That is how the two men parted. Abraham stayed in the land of Canaan, and Lot settled among the cities in the valley and camped near Sodom, where people were wicked and sinned against the Lord. Abraham moves to Hebron. After Lot had left, the Lord said to Abraham, "From where you are, look carefully in all directions. I am going to give you and your descendants all the land that you see, and it will be yours forever. I am going to give you so many descendants that no one will be able to count them all. It would be as easy to count all the specks of dust on earth. Now go and look over the whole land, because I am going to give it all to you." So Abraham moved his camp and settled near the sacred trees of Mamre at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Genesis chapter 14. Abraham rescues Lot. 4 kings, Amraphel of Babylonia, Arioch of Elazar, Chedorlaomer of Elam, and Tidal of Goim, went to war against 5 other kings: Bera of Sodom, Bersha of Gomorrah, Shinab of Admah, Shemeber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela of Zoar. These 5 kings had formed an alliance and joined forces in Siddim Valley, which is now the Dead Sea. They had been under the control of Chedorlaomer for 12 years, but in the 13th year they rebelled against him. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and his allies came with their armies and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in the plain of Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Edom, pursuing them as far as Elparan on the edge of the desert. Then they turned around and came back to Kadesh, then known as En-Misphah. They conquered all the land of the Amalekites and defeated the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. Then the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela drew up their armies for battle in Siddim Valley and fought against the kings of Elam, Goim, Babylonia, and Elazar, 5 kings against 4. The valley was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah tried to run away from the battle, they fell into the pits. But the other 3 kings escaped to the mountains. The 4 kings took everything in Sodom and Gomorrah, including the food, and went away. Lot, Abraham's nephew, was living in Sodom, so they took him and all his possessions. But a man escaped and reported all this to Abraham, the Hebrew who was living near the sacred trees belonging to Mamre the Amorite. Mamre and his brothers, Eshol and Aner, were Abraham's allies. When Abraham heard that his nephew had been captured, he called together all the fighting men in his camp, 318 in all, and pursued the 4 kings all the way to Dan. There he divided his men into groups, attacked the enemy by night, and defeated them. He chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus, and got back all the loot that had been taken. He also brought back his nephew Lot and his possessions, together with the woman and the other prisoners. Melchizedek blesses Abraham. When Abraham came back from his victory over Chedorlaomer and the other kings, The king of Sodom went out to meet him in Shaveh Valley, also called King's Valley. And Melchizedek, who was king of Salem, and also a priest of the Most High God, brought bread and wine to Abraham, blessed him, and said, May the Most High God, who made heaven and earth, bless Abraham. May the Most High God, who gave you victory over your enemies, be praised. And Abraham gave Melchizedek 1/10 of all the loot he had recovered. The king of Sodom said to Abraham, Keep the loot, but give me back all my people. Abraham answered, I solemnly swear before the Lord, the Most High God, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not keep anything of yours, not even a thread or a sandal strap. Then you can never say, I am the one who made Abraham rich. I will take nothing for myself. I will accept only what my men have used. But let my allies, Aner, Eshol, and Mamre, take their share. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. Let's continue. Matthew chapter 5, verse 21 to 42. Teaching about anger. You have heard that people were told in the past, Do not commit murder. Anyone who does will be brought to trial. But now I tell you, if you are angry with your brother, you will be brought to trial. If you call your brother, you good for nothing, you will be brought before the council. And if you call your brother a worthless fool, you will be in danger of going to the fire of hell. So if you are about to offer your gift to God at the altar, and there you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar, go at once and make peace with your brother, and then come back and offer your gift to God. If someone brings a lawsuit against you and takes you to court, settle the dispute while there is time, before you get to court. Once you are there, you will be turned over to the judge, who will hand you over to the police, and you will be put in jail. There you will stay, I tell you, until you pay the last penny of your fine. Teaching about adultery. You have heard that it was said, Do not commit adultery. But now I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman and wants to possess her is guilty of committing adultery with her in his heart. So if your right eye causes you to sin, take it out and throw it away. It is much better for you to lose a part of your body than to have your whole body thrown into hell. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is much better for you to lose one of your limbs than to have your whole body go off to hell. Teaching about divorce. It was also said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a written notice of divorce. But now I tell you, if a man divorces his wife for any other cause other than her unfaithfulness, then he is guilty of making her commit adultery if she marries again, and the man who marries her commits adultery also. Teaching about vows. You have also heard that people were told in the past, Do not break your promise, but do what you have vowed to the Lord to do. But now I tell you, do not use any vow when you make a promise. Do not swear by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by earth, for it is the resting place for his feet, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Do not even swear by your head, because you cannot make a single hair white or black. Just say yes or no. Anything else you say comes from the evil one. Teaching about revenge. You have heard that it was said, An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But now I tell you, do not take revenge on someone who wrongs you. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, let him slap your left cheek too. And if someone takes you to court to sue you for your shirt, let him have your coat as well. And if one of the occupation troops forces you to carry his pack 1 mile, carry it 2 miles. When someone asks you for something, give it to him. When someone wants to borrow something, lend it to him. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. That's it for today, and I hope that you'll join me in the next video. Wishing you a graceful morning, day, or evening.